What's up, Magnetic Men Club? We're here this Friday with another live for you guys. As always, we appreciate you guys showing up for these lives. We appreciate
Thank
you
you,
guys
guys.
going through these. And obviously, I'm Chase. I'm here every week. Here, got my good friend Jared.
What's up, kids?
And we're talking today about the topic of mental toughness. And so really like it comes down to discipline. Like that's the cornerstone of mental toughness, making sure that you have the right amount of discipline and that kind of stuff. Making sure that you're self-sufficient is a big part of it too. Making sure that you're actually doing things for yourself. You know how to cook for yourself. You know how to do your laundry, that kind of stuff. You know how to set your own schedule and do what you want on your terms. And so that's really what that stuff comes down to. So tell us a little bit about it. Like, what does mental toughness mean to you, Jared?
Yeah, I mean, great question. And hey, guys, thanks for joining in. Appreciate it. For me, it's just having that unquestionable belief in yourself. Does not matter what obstacles come up in your life. You have the ability in your own skills, learning new skills, that you can find this obstacle. And if you can't go through it, you can learn to go under it, over it, around it. It's not going to stop you. It's just there. It's just in your way temporarily. And, sadly, I'm 48 years old. That's something that's it's lacking in this generation and probably maybe even the prior generation now with even when my kid was going through high school, I've never seen second place trophies. I've never seen third. I've never seen ribbons. When we're there, you get a trophy if you win, and that's it. Yep. So it just seems like over the last couple generations, men have become more weak in their mind, and also it translates into their bodies. I see it every day. I'm 48 years old. Obviously, I work out, and I just see the overweight, very soft men. And when you start talking to them, they look down. They even shake your hand very weak. They just don't have that discipline. They just don't have that, what I call part of that mental toughness, where they haven't gone through really anything challenging in their life. Or if they have gone through something challenging in their life, they cowered away from it. They shied away from it. And so mental toughness for me is just having that unequivocal ability in yourself to know that even if you fail, you'll pick yourself back up and just do it again, learn from that mistake, and then figure it out and go around it. That's for me.
Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree with that too. Just like being a father myself, like watching this kind of stuff unfold in my kids, the stuff that happened to me, I guess, when I was a kid too, because obviously I'm a millennial. And so we all got trophies. It was what it was. I played t-ball and stuff too when I was like 5 years old, and everybody walked away with a trophy. Didn't matter if you won or not. And so, like, I mean, obviously it just kind of pulls all the sweetness out of winning. Like it just makes it so winning really isn't that important. And so winning doesn't become important to these people. Like a lot of other people too, especially in the Gen X, I think with those guys too, like people that are in their 40s and their 50s, like they remember a time when like their parents were telling them like, you win at all costs. It's kill, kill, kill. Like that's what Andy Frisella actually says too. His dad used to push him out of the car to go to soccer practice, and he would sit there and coach his kids beforehand, and he'd say, kill, kill, kill. And like they would sit there and chant it until those guys got out, and he just unleashed them on everybody there. And so
was he the one that he wrote 75 strong or 75 hard.
Yeah. I watched his Real AF podcast actually, and that's stuff that he was talking about. And I mean, that's just something that you don't see today. If you saw that today, like that person would be completely ridiculed. They'd be all over the news, right? And so really, we're not teaching our kids how to be mentally strong. We're not teaching our kids to win at all costs. We're teaching them that everything is fair. Everybody gets a trophy. Everybody's feelings matter. Mm-hmm. When in reality, when you teach your kids how to be like that, I mean, it's okay to be a nice guy. And I think it's fine to be kind. And sure, I mean, teach your kids to be kind. But at the end of the day, they're going to lose to somebody who does have that mentality. And that's really what it is. Like, if you're not teaching your kids how to win at all costs, and even Andy Frisella says, like, winning is not important to him. He was talking about how he just doesn't want to lose. I just can't lose. That's all it is. He's like, winning is not important. I don't care about winning. He says, I'm just not going to lose. That's really all it is for me. Right. And so that really resonated with me. I really thought that was cool, because I tell my kids all the time, like, life is not fair. Life is not ever going to be fair for you. Like, you have to get out there and get what's yours. And that's just the way it is. That's just the way life's going to be. If you're going to pause and you're going to halt and you're going to hold and wait for other people to make sure things are fair, you're going to lose. That's just what it is. That's just life. And so ultimately, if you really want to win, you really want your kids to win, you really want these people to grow up and be productive members of society, we've got to teach them how to win at all costs. We've got to teach them how to be disciplined and mentally tough, because what we're teaching kids nowadays is that they can just sit on their ass all day and not have to do shit, and they're still going to get what's theirs. And that's not fair, obviously. And life isn't fair. And so that's the biggest point, is understanding that we can't just sit on our ass and get what we want. We can't just wait for something. We can't get what we don't ask for. And it's really too, like, even you talked about the Spartan Warriors. We're actually going to be dropping this video tomorrow. Jared actually made the whole topic on this. He actually went and covered every single part of it. He talked a lot about Spartan Warriors. So watch out for that video tomorrow. I'll make sure I post it here once that video is live tomorrow too. But ultimately, talking about Spartan Warriors, like, they actually were all given their own rations, their foods and stuff too. Like, they were actually just given broth. It was black broth is what they called it. Mm-hmm. And each kid was given less than what was sufficient for him. Right. And so they would encourage those kids to actually go steal from the other kids. And ultimately, if they got caught stealing, there were harsh punishments for stealing. Mm-hmm. And so it's really, they're trying to teach them mental toughness. Like, even with the Navy SEALs and stuff too, the biggest thing for Navy SEALs is they're not really looking for people with physical prowess. They're not really looking for people that are highly physical people. They're not looking for bodybuilders or anything like that. They're not looking for a lot of people that have high endurance. I mean, those things are important. They're going to help you. But at the end of the day, they want people that will push through no matter what. No matter if the water's cold, no matter how hot it is, no matter if they got 100 pounds of gear on and they're walking through the Sahara Desert. These guys have got to push through, and they've got to be mentally tough to do it, because it doesn't matter how big they are and how physically fit they are. If they're not mentally tough, they're not going to do it. They're going to find any reason not to. They're just going to lay down and die ultimately. And they can't have that out in the battlefield. And so that's really what we're trying to teach people, is that's really what being mentally tough means. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah. And guys, in the video, I think I mispronounced what the system was that the Spartan Warriors went through. I think I said agoge. I believe the actual correct pronunciation is the agoge. But who knows? I mean, who cares really at the end of the day? But we just don't have that these days. We don't have this process. Now, again, their educational training system was in all intents and purposes intense and cruel, but it was a different time. We're not there. We have first world problems, these days, but it has also made us very soft. I tell guys who are bitching about, I don't have the newest iPhone or something. Like, you know what? Why don't you go over to Afghanistan and complain about it that way? Or, these third world countries that they're just trying to survive. Right. If you don't think those people, how poor they are, don't have mental toughness, and they come over here like on a visa, they're like, I don't understand why. What are you complaining about? What are you bitching about? So we find things to complain about. We find this isn't fair. Right. So, we always hear that this isn't fair. Life isn't fair. There's nothing fair about life. Deal with it. And I've always had that mindset. It probably stems from, just growing up in my childhood. It wasn't the best. It wasn't the worst, but it wasn't the best. Just realizing life isn't fair. Now, what are you going to do about it? That's the question. And so I was probably always geared for this type of mindset. I just don't see failure. I just don't see it. I don't see excuses. I don't see the word try. To me, try is just an excuse. It might work. I'll try it.
Right.
I just don't see it. I never have. And so
All in. You got to be all in.
yeah, sometimes it's hard to me to articulate to people that are, crying and bitching about something. I'm like, back of my mind is, bitch, like, what's really the problem? She broke up with you. Oh, okay, who cares, or whatever it is. So, but yeah, so mental toughness is it's just lacking these days, and that's one of my biggest purposes. And men that I help coach, or the programs that we put together is, you got to find a way in this environment, in this first world, to put yourself through your own agoge. You got, excuse me, you got to find a way to challenge yourself physically, emotionally, spiritually, every different way. It's your imperative as a man to beat every single weakness out of you. And it starts up here.
Right.
It doesn't matter how big you are. It doesn't matter anything like that. Everything starts in your mind. If you're mentally strong, then your body will become physically strong, because you will not accept being a fat ass. You will not accept being a weak person. But
Right.
it has to start in your mind. And so mental toughness is just, it's going through those trials, those tribulations, though, that fire, going through them. And if you don't have that, maybe you were born rich. Maybe you were born with a silver spoon in your mouth.
Yeah.
Go to a gym, like go learn boxing, get your ass kicked from somebody, or put yourself in a situation where you have to grow, where you have to grow from that, or you'll just keep getting beat up. I always
It's like nobody really chooses where they're born in life or what status they're born into. Like, it doesn't matter if you were born poor, if you were born in the middle class, if you were born rich.
Yeah.
No matter what, it doesn't matter how you were born. Like, you can't control what you were born into.
Right.
But if you die poor, that's a choice. That's the thing. Like, if you die poor, that was your choice. You chose to die poor. Yeah. Nobody has to be in these situations. Nobody's forced to be in poverty. And there's never been more opportunity than there is today, too. Right. And so really training your mind is the first part of it. A lot of people will train their bodies and stuff, too. A lot of people will train their diets, but they don't really think a lot about training their mind and how that's really the beginning of it all. Like, just like you said.
Yeah. And he mentions like SEAL training, any of the, Green Berets, any of those kinds of operators. Interesting enough, most of the quote unquote jocks that went through high school completely wash out of those, because it was easy for them in high school. They were the big man on campus. Most of the time it's your smaller, scrawnier guys that go through it, because they've been beaten up all their life. They've always had to go that extra mile every single time. So when they get into those programs, it's not easy for them, don't get me wrong, but they already have that mindset that they know they're not the biggest guy here. They know they're not the strongest. They know they're not the fastest. What do they have? They have a stronger mental fortitude than some of these gifted guys going into the program. And a lot of those guys wash out, and it's those smaller guys that you see in a year or two that are pretty jacked now. Because again, they already had the mind. They already had the mind. David Goggins is a perfect example. He actually washed out of the Air Force's program, which is combat control. They also had pararescue and a couple other subsections. But he washed out of that. And I believe a year or so later, he went into the SEALs. But he was overweight. He was overweight. So he wasn't physically fit by any means. I think he had to lose something like 50 pounds before he could even get into the school, before they even let him go in. So he dropped weight, but he's still, he has one of the most strongest mindsets out there.
Right.
He had to go through it. He did it to prove to himself. And that's the biggest takeaway in this. Your mental toughness has nothing to do with anybody else. It's you're proving to yourself what you're made of every single day. You're proving to yourself that if you say you're going to go to the gym, if you say you're going to do this, nobody else gives a shit. They don't. It's you're holding yourself accountable. You're holding yourself to a higher standard. And
Right.
so one of the best books out there is Can't Hurt Me by David Goggins. So if you haven't read that, that is an amazing book. The guy's legit. That's definitely a must read for anybody to try to figure out their mindset, try to figure out what steps they can take
Exactly. Yeah,
to
he's got
actually
the steps, the
start
tactics that
developing
you can
this.
apply. Yeah, for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah.
So that's the big thing too with Goggins. Like he's got that 60% rule or 40% rule. And so he was talking about how, you think you've given it all.
Yeah.
And you're only 40% in, basically. You got 60% more to go. Like you're only giving it 40%. And so that's really his big philosophy, is reaching 100%. Like you're only giving every day 33% of what you're really capable of. You're not reaching your full capacity. You're not going to feel fulfilled if you're not reaching your full capacity. Yeah. You know you're capable of more. You know you can do more. You know you can push farther. Like it's like when you're trying to push the weights up and you're getting gassed, and it's like, dude, you got one more in you. Keep going. So it's really that's you training your brain. That's when you're telling your brain, like, hey, I know this hurts. I know this is tough, but I'm going to keep going. I'm going to keep going because I know I can keep going. I remember doing some gasser exercises the other day with my brother, actually. And man, by the end of those things, I was just like, there's no way I can do the push-ups. And I just kept going. I just kept proving it to myself that I can just keep doing it. And so that's the biggest thing, is like your brain is screaming at you to stop. Your brain is screaming at you to finish and saying, like, there's no way we can do more.
Right.
And you're turning around and saying, no, dude, like we can do more. We're capable of more. I know I've got more in me. I'm gonna find it.
Yeah. Yeah. And your brain is designed to keep you alive.
Right.
It's designed to keep you safe to a point. So it's always working against you. In order to have that mental fortitude or to be mentally strong, you definitely have to turn off that part of your brain, basically tell it to F off. Yep. I'm doing 1,000 push-ups today. I'm not doing them in a row, but I'm going to do 1,000. It might be 10 at a time. It might be 5 at a time. But by the end of today, I'm doing 1,000.
Right.
Most people will get to a couple hundred and like, oh, I'm really sore. It's your brain telling you that. Your brain's like, yeah, man, you did 200. Fucking great. Well, where's the other 800? You don't need to do that.
No, you should just be proud of yourself.
It's about that. And those are some of the key things you can do to build up that mental toughness. Right. Is just turning off that part of the brain, telling it to F off, and do a couple more. Do a couple more. Eventually your brain's gonna be like, all right, okay. And you'll realize that your body, like David Goggins says, your body can handle so much more pain.
Absolutely.
So much more endurance. It's your brain that tells you, kicks in and says, hey man, slow down here. We might die. You're not going to die. You're not going to die. So, that's a great book. I'm glad that you read that as well. That's an amazing book, and he's really an amazing guy. He's very extreme, very extreme.
Oh yeah, no, he gets it all out of him too. Like that's the thing too, is it's really no comfort. Like you don't need rest, you don't need comfort, you don't need any of that stuff. Your brain's telling you need that stuff. You need to keep going. If you really want to crush your enemies, if you really want to completely see what you're capable of entirely, you have to push past all that stuff. You have to push past those thoughts. You have to tell your brain no. You have to realize that it's not you that's saying that. It's not you in your brain saying that, I should just be proud of myself. I tried, I got it done. No. We're going to keep going. We're not stopping. I'm sorry. Yep. That's what it is, man. Like we're going to push through this. I know it hurts. I know it sucks, but we're going to keep going because we're going to see what we're capable of. Yeah.
Yeah. I probably wasn't born with that part. I don't know. Like maybe there's a little sociopath in me, but I always turn that part on, and I always live for that adventure. What if I fail? Then my mind's like, what if you succeed? And I'm like, oh yeah, do it.
You got to stay motivated. You got to have a strong why.
Yeah, and you always want to keep pushing those limits, even at 48. Push those limits. I'm running 4 companies. You're part of some of those companies, and right. People are like, I don't know how you do it. Like, I don't need sleep.
Yep.
5 hours is great for me. I got enough stuff to do. People
Yep.
are just like, that's because you're crazy. Maybe, but this is what I love to do. This is
That's
what
the
I've
thing
been
too, is like
conditioned to
people tell
do.
you that you're gonna burn out and stuff, that you got to take it easy, and like they'll tell you that stuff all the time. But like,
Yeah.
man, I'll be the guy that's up 9 o'clock still working. I'll be up there at 10 o'clock still working.
Yeah.
I'll get up at 6 a.m. even though I was up until midnight, and I'll get right back to working just because there's these projects. I've got to finish them. They've got to get done. There's so much work in this, but like, man, I got it. Let's do this. And so that's really the mentality that you've got to have. You got to prove to yourself that you can do it. Because I see a lot of people give up just because they have to learn something new. And so ultimately, you can't have that kind of mindset. If there's something you got to achieve, you got to do everything in your power to achieve it. And you don't need rest. Your body's going to tell you need rest. Your mind's going to tell you need rest, all that stuff too. But you got to push through. You're the one that's in charge. One big thing that can help you train this too, just a simple way to get started with this, start taking cold showers. Just go take a cold shower. Like that's one thing. Like your brain's going to say, no, your body's going to tell you, no, this hurts. This is going to burn. No, just jump in there, man. That's what you got to do.
Or just like I said, ice bath, grab a one of those big cow troughs. I saw a guy on Instagram. Yeah. He's actually local to here. I wanted to reach out to him because he did like a 90-day challenge or maybe 120-day challenge. I'm not exactly sure, but every day for 3 minutes, he held himself accountable. He went live. Nice. That's part about holding himself accountable, and he did it. And as a result, he was always a pretty physical guy, but as a result, he battled alcoholism. He told me it's right there. Right. Since then, he's been sober the exact amount of times he's been doing cold baths. Now, I'm not saying there's a correlation between that, but he trained his brain 3 minutes every day, and he started in the dead of winter up here. Now, this is upstate New York, guys. If you're watching, the dead of winter. It's not like in Florida. He had an axe a couple days, and he's smashing the ice to get to the water to jump in. I was like, all right. I was inspired by him. And then as a result, he trained his mind. I don't need alcohol. There's so many good things about cold baths, cold showers. And a great way to do that is get it, you just try this. Get in the shower warm yourself up. I don't suggest this. Turn it on cold. Turn it on warm. Just to get it, just to get used to it. And then work your way up to just turning it on cold and jumping in for a couple minutes. Feel that burn.
Right.
And take a shower. So
see, we'll often do that after a workout, man. Like we'll actually just go sit in the steam room and just sit and chat and just, me and my workout buddy. He's my brother. Actually, he's across the street here. So we'll go work out. And like we just go down to this Pueblo Bonito here, the resort and stuff. They sell gym passes, and so we'll just go and sit in the sauna for a minute. Yeah. And then after the sauna, they've got an ice bath right outside of it. So you go jump right into the ice bath after the sauna, man. I tell you, it hurts. Yeah. It hurts. Yeah. Instantly, it hurts, man. But the thing is now I've got energy for the rest of the day. Like I've got all the energy I need to put into everything for the rest of the day, and it's not going to be a problem. I'm not going to get tired. I'm not going to burn out. It's no problem. Because I've already gone through that stuff, and I've already got that excess energy that I'm burning off now. And at the same time, even the cold showers and stuff in the morning, like it trains your brain over time to just stop trying to be in charge. Like, oh, okay, well, this guy's going to be okay. He's got it covered. No problem. Yeah. It makes everything else easier. Like the hard things that you're stressing about at work. Like the thing is they talk about how CEOs and stuff too, that are in charge of huge corporations, like they're almost always psychopaths. And the reason being is because they just don't care about the stress. They don't care what they have to go through. And you have to have that. Like you have to be able to make decisions and still think when things are extremely stressful. That's the thing that we're trying to train these SEALs and stuff too, and the Spartan warriors. Spartan warriors didn't train like athletes trained. They didn't train like big bodybuilders trained. They trained their minds. It was all about their mind because they had to stay in the fight, even though things were going wrong, even though things were going bad, even though things hurt, even though they were fatigued and hungry or whatever. The same thing for SEALs. You've got to train that mental toughness in because it makes everything else easier and it makes you keep going when things get hard. Yeah. And things are inevitably going to get hard. This is why this is so important for people who are in charge of companies, people who are trying to be CEOs and those kinds of things too, because they've got to deal with high stress situations. Things are going to happen. Things are going to come up, and you're going to be stressed, and you still got to think on your toes, and you still got to make all the decisions. And everybody's looking to you because they're stressed too. Mm-hmm. It's a stressful environment. It's really, really stressful, but it doesn't mean you can't do it. Like, you just got to train your brain to say, hey, we're okay with the stress. We're fine. Don't worry. Everything's going to be okay. I've got it covered.
Yeah. Yeah. Another kind of group of people too, besides the military, you have fire, EMS, and your police officers all have to have some degree of mental toughness to just to endure the shit that they see on a given day. And so they train their minds, most of them, I'm not going to say all, but they train their minds by just going through and seeing tragedy. They got to process it a certain way and compartmentalize and say, okay, and so, yeah, it's all about just turning off the brain, or just quieting down that part of the brain that says it's time to stop. That's the biggest thing. And it's also turning on part of the brain that you're able to envision yourself, seeing yourself through that target, seeing yourself through that challenge, whatever's in your way, and seeing yourself on the top of that mountain, whatever proverbial mountain you're talking about. So your brain can actually work as a visualization tool, but the hind part of your brain, the back that wants to keep you alive, you got to learn to turn that off.
Right.
So it's all up here. Both sides are up here. Everything is all.
The big thing too is, like, it's not even just for stressful situations. Like, even when you're trying to relax and you don't have a lot of mental toughness, you can sit down to relax and you're still worried about something somebody said at work. You're still worried about something that happened earlier in the day. You're still thinking about that guy that cut you off in traffic. Yeah. You can't even relax. And the reason being is that you can't shut your brain off. Like, you're not in charge. Your brain just keeps throwing that stuff out there, and it just keeps saying, like, hey, we got to worry about this right now. And it's like, no, we don't, man. It's time to relax. And so when you have a lot of mental toughness, it's not even just for pushing through. Like, even when you do sit down to relax, you're a lot more able to turn it all off and to just relax and actually physically get some relaxation. A lot of other people aren't able to do that. They're just so worried about things all the time that they can't control.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it also goes with emotional control is part of mental toughness. How many guys, if you're watching this, girls, have just been pissed off for no reason at a girl because she did one thing wrong, or they're just emotionally unstable. One time they're really nice, and then they spike. They have emotions like women. For men, yeah, we can have emotions, but we need to check them. We need to keep everything almost at a baseline. And that starts again.
Being stoic.
Yeah, just knowing that you still have emotions, you can still go through them, but you need to squash them down enough so that you don't have outbursts. You don't have these wild outbursts. That's controlling your mind. That's part of controlling, having that mental toughness. Right. And so all of this, again, it's all in your mind. It's going through certain techniques, certain things you can do, but it's putting yourself into situations. And once you get out of the situation, you're kind of training your body, you're training your mind. Like, okay, I can do that. What else can I do? Well, let's go figure it out.
Right.
So, if this is one thing that's been lacking in maybe the last couple generations, is this is a culmination of what you're starting to see now. We just get these whiny fucking kids, and they're just emotionally weak, physically weak, mentally weak, and
they can't take rejection.
Right. And the downfall of this is when you have an entire nation like that, like the US is, it's a failing nation because you don't have enough men to stand up and say, no, this is wrong. We're not doing this crap anymore. When you have this inclusivity of things, well, everything's fine. Everything's, that's cool. You want to do this, that's all cool. No.
Right.
having that, like, no, this is wrong.
Well, it even comes back to like a lot of the celebrities and stuff too that we're watching nowadays, like putting out that like they're paying 50-50 bills and things like that too. Like, oh, she pays half the bread, like I pay half the bread. We split everything 50-50. And it's like, what kind of relationship is that? And ultimately, like if you took that to Mexico or you took that to Russia, there's no way that stuff's flying there. Like, no, dude, I go to work. I pay for everything. What are you talking about? That's weird.
Well,
Yeah,
that's also a part of the feminist movement here, and
right.
I'm a boss babe, and I can do everything a man can do, and that that's a whole other
Truth.
topic we can talk about. But like I say, you go to some of those countries, women will submit. They'll say, okay,
Yep.
I'll be married to you. I'll raise your kids. I'm not working. That's my job. I raise the kids.
Right.
I'm married. You go work. So the U.S. kind of had the Western side kind of has it a little bit backwards, and whether that's a good thing or not, we're starting to see that. We're starting to see that 50-year experiment kind of starting to blow up in our face right now. But there's not much we can do about it. As far as what we can do as men is just getting ourselves to the level, becoming the best you can be. And again, it starts with just having that iron mind of knowing that no matter what happens, you have the tools within you. God has given you the tools. You just have to figure out where they are deep within you. And you have to do that through going through pain, going through discomfort. Tragedy is a huge learner. Failure is a teacher. Winning doesn't teach you anything. It's through your failures that generate real winners.
Right.
So again, having the second, third place trophy participation stuff, it's the biggest detriment we've had. It really is. Because if I was the winner, if I won first place and everybody else got a trophy, even for those winners, it took it away from them. They're like, I got the same damn size trophy. I got this.
There's no prize
no
at the end. Like there's no point to it.
Yeah.
And so that's the whole thing. Is like there's no why to push through.
Yeah. And your whole purpose for being a man is to dominate every part of your life, dominate your job, whether you work a 9 to 5, your businesses. I'm not here to win. I'm here to dominate, because they're two different things. I might not win in everything, but I'm damn sure people are going to know who the hell I am. They're like, okay, this guy. And so if you play it small, if you play it timid, if you play it weak, you're not going to be remembered. You're just not. And I kind of probably have that little bit of complex where, I want, when I leave a room, I want people to be like, who the hell was that guy? He's either a dick. He's either a dick or wow. So it's having that. And what does set me apart, because I've heard it before, is, when you walk in a room, people are like, shit. And I don't contribute it really to my body. I'm 6'1". Yeah, I'm 220 pounds, but I'm scanning the room. I'm talking to people. When I'm looking at them, I'm looking at them in the eyes. I'm engaging with them. I give them my opinions. This is all part of this too, is stick up for yourself. Something's not right. You say, no, I don't agree with that. It's all of this. And this is probably just, again, part of my growing up, part of my military, part of all the stuff I've gone through. And that's the key. You have to go through things in order to develop this.
Right. Well, that's the thing too. It's even for me, like I didn't have a dad growing up. Like my dad left before I was born.
Yeah.
And so ultimately I had to raise myself. Like my mom wasn't really around. She was pretty much out running a bar, and she was out like just bringing money home. That's what she was doing. I mean, she wasn't doing anything negatively. She was just doing her best, obviously. And she had to step into her masculine. Yeah. And she had to run the show, and she had to she dealt with a lot of nice guys, let me tell you. Yeah. And ultimately I saw one guy after another pretty much come in and out, and she just was trying to find her way. And ultimately I was part of that, and I was there for the journey for that whole thing. And I realized that nobody's sitting here teaching me how to be a man. Nobody's teaching me any of these things. I'm kind of raising myself. I had to raise my brothers and stuff too as I went along. But ultimately, like, I had to develop this stuff in myself. Like, nobody was there showing me this stuff. Nobody was there teaching me this stuff. I had to rely on books. The number one book that I relied on when I was younger was Iron John. And that one, basically, he talks a lot about all this stuff, like how you've got to be, like, just what the Spartans did. Like, they used to rip their kids away from their mothers when they were 6 years old because that was necessary to put that wedge between there and say, hey, you know, there's no more maternal instincts anymore. There's no more mothering you anymore. There's no more mother cooking your food for you, washing your clothes for you. You've got to do that shit now. And so ultimately, that's really what taught those guys to be self-sufficient. That's what taught me to be self-sufficient. If I wasn't self-sufficient, I wouldn't be the person that I am today.
Right.
And ultimately, I always thought that I could make my own way in the world. And that's why I never really was comfortable working for somebody else, doing anything else. I mean, I tried to join the military and stuff too, but ultimately had babies and that stuff kind of got me out of it. So ultimately, like, I just wanted to raise my family. I just wanted to do the best I could for my kids to make sure that, you know, I did what my dad didn't do. And I was there for my boys, and I'm there to raise them, and I'm there to teach them what they need to know.
Yeah. Yeah. And you hit it, you know, my dad was around, but he was an alcoholic. And so when he wasn't working, he was at a bar or wherever he was. So, you know, that's another part, is being raised by women. You don't have that in a lot of society, you know, single moms, you know, I love you all. You're doing the best you can, but you can't take on that alpha role. You can be in your masculine because you have to do, but you can't teach a boy to be a man if you're a single mother.
Exactly.
And sadly, you know, you're doing the best you can. So I'm not shitting on it.
No.
This is how society has kind of evolved, where you have generations of weak men because they didn't have that father figure to look up to.
Yep.
You know, I looked up to my grandfather. He was same height as you, 6'4". He was a massive guy, very quiet. He had two Purple Hearts in World War II. He came back, never talked about it. He led by example. He, you know, was a TV repairman. So back in that day, he was actually like you are with your computers now. Like, what the hell? I don't know how to fix this. I don't know how to do that. So he was very smart. He got into that. My grandmother, his wife, ran the household. Her job was the 6 kids, sorry. And so they all had that yin and yang. They knew when dad came home, you know, don't F with dad. Like, he came home, he's tired. That's just the way it went. So he was a very strong masculine presence, even to all his grandkids, even to me. That's why I went in the military. That's why my cousin Josh went in the military. We're the only two that went in, and we both said because of grandpa. Now, but my Josh went into the Army. I went into the Air Force, but, you know, we wanted to follow that example. And so having that masculine presence is having that positive masculine energy. You know, we hear toxic all the time, but those two words don't even make sense together. But positive mental.
Right. The thing is, too, is it makes a big difference. Like, you've got to find your group of men. Like, you've got to go out there and find a group of men that, you know, align with you. Yeah. You've got to look up to other men. You've got to have those wise men in your life to kind of tell you and guide you. That's what the book Iron John really set forth too. Mm-hmm. And ultimately, having those guys around you it's what's going to build you as a person. It's what's going to really teach you these things and understand, like, you know, there's nothing wrong with me. There's nothing wrong with being a man. Like, I just got to be around other men. And so that's the biggest problem, is like they get abandoned by their dads, and then they lean into their moms, and they lean into their teachers at school and their counselors and all this other stuff. Wow. And ultimately they end up making all these women their friends. This is actually something we made a video about this last week, actually, talking about why men and women can't be friends, or why it might be detrimental and stuff like that too. Mm-hmm. But ultimately it can be. And if you're friends with a lot of women, like, who's friends with a lot of women? Really, usually a lot of feminine men. Yeah. And so ultimately, like, you've got to be around other men. You've got to prove yourself to other men. You've got to prove that you're worth a damn and that you're actually bringing something to the table to other men too. Otherwise, they're not going to have anything to do with you. Right. And so you've got to find that group of men that you really align with and start doing more things with those men. Go fishing, go hiking, get out there, fix cars, whatever it is that you're going to do, whatever it is that they're aligned with too. Like, just go out there and do that with your group of men.
Right. Yeah. And you know what you can tell when you're in the wrong group of men is if you're always constantly at the same bar drinking beer, talking about the good old days. The group of
Right.
men you need to be around are talking about money, ideas, talking about new business ventures, talking about how you can pull each other up, talking about
Right.
your emotional well-being. You know, that's where men should talk about to other men about, hey, you know, something's going on with their girlfriend or something's going on. You talk to your killers, you talk to your guy friends, but your true guy friends, not the guys you're out drinking with that you're all crying about the same damn thing that
Right.
nobody cares about, but you're trying to one up each other. Oh yeah, well she left me and did this. Oh yeah, well that's not what I'm
Yeah.
talking about, and that's not what you're talking about. You want killers. You want men who are probably more successful than you because by default you'll go that way. You're
Exactly.
hanging out with this, losers. You're just a loser.
But you need men around you that force you to prove yourself. Like I said, like if you're the top guy in the group, if you're the most successful guy in the group, you're in the wrong group. Like
You're in the wrong group.
that's your first indicator right there.
Yep. Yep. You got to be okay with being by yourself. That's another part, huge part about having mental toughness is I love people think it's foreign. I'm like, if I want to go out and have dinner, I'll go out by myself. I don't care.
Absolutely.
Like, oh, you're not bringing a guy with you or a friend with you or a girl. I'm going to have dinner. I love me. I'm that best damn person.
Man. Yeah.
But it's being okay, just being alone and working through your own ideas. A lot of people just need that substance of somebody else in their life, and I don't know,
need, like validation and things like that too. Like, hey, like, what do you want to eat? I don't know what I want to eat. Like that's the thing too, is like not even being able to decide. It makes you indecisive. Yeah. And so that's part of mental toughness too, is just deciding. And this is the plan. This is what it is. This is what we're doing. There's nothing else. We're not talking ourselves out of it. And this is it.
Yeah.
There's no other plan.
Yeah.
And so that's really what mental toughness is too. Because a lot of people, like I said, they're incredibly indecisive. They don't know what they want to eat. They don't know what they want to wear. They don't know what they want to do in their life. They don't know where they want to go on vacation. So they're always looking for validation from other people. They're always looking for validation from their spouse or their girlfriend. They're looking for validation from their parents or from their guy friends or whoever it is. They're always out there seeking validation so that they know that, oh, the way I feel is okay. You know, I just, as long as I have that validation, I can be happy with who I am.
Yeah.
No, that's not the way this thing works, man. No. You've got to be on your own course. You've got to be on your own path. And part of that is deciding for yourself. Part of being self-sufficient is deciding for yourself. And so if you really want to be a self-sufficient, mentally tough person, you've got to make your own dinners from time to time. You've got to do your own laundry from time to time. You've got to get out there and make your own appointments. You've got to be a person who is willing to go out there and do those things and not relying on other people to do those things for you. It's nobody's job to be your mom.
Yeah. Yeah. Great example of this is my son. It just happened a couple days ago. I got back from North Carolina last Sunday, and I got back pretty late, fell asleep, whatever. He comes down at like 2:00 in the morning, getting home. He rolled his buddy's motorcycle, dirt bike, and he messed up his leg pretty good. I mean, he didn't break it. I mean, I was a medic in the military. He didn't break it, but he had abrasions, cuts. He had all that over. Anyway, he's 19 and he's not in college. I told him 3 months ago, I sent him everything. You need to get your own health insurance because you can't be on my plane anymore. It's the way it is.
Right.
So he has to go to urgent care, but then urgent care sent him to a specialist because he might have broken his knee or whatever. He had to pay out of pocket because he then had to go get insurance, but it doesn't start until June 1st. So he had to pay $350, and he's looking at me to pay it. I'm like, no, I told you to do this months ago. You didn't. You pay. So that's part of just telling your kids after a while, push them out of the nest. Like, listen, there's only so much you can do. And if you don't do it, there's consequences for it.
Right. And that's the problem too. They'll keep looking at you like you're the person who's always going to be there to save them. You're the net that they can just fall back into. And if you don't let them fail from time to time, it's okay if your kids fail. It's okay if you fail. I mean, you can always get back up and try again. You can always get back and fix things from where you're at.
Yeah.
And so you got to teach your kids that too. Like you got to understand that yourself, but you've also got to teach your kids that.
Yeah.
And ultimately, they're going to fail. They're going to make mistakes. They're going to make bad decisions, just like we all do. We're all human.
Mm-hmm.
But ultimately, if we don't own those decisions, if we don't take ownership for that stuff,
Right.
and if we don't try to climb out of it ourselves, and if we just rely on somebody else to be the net and to be there to catch us all the time,
right.
we're always going to be looking for that net. And so we
that's
can't
what's
have
happening.
That's got to go away.
Yeah, that's exactly what's happening in society. There's a net for everything.
Yep.
And you need to get rid of that net. Sink or swim. That's it. There's only two choices. Not
right.
If I start sinking, someone will pull me up. No. There's no.
It's just me. That's it.
And that's how I've always been. It's always been just me. And I've operated my life, my entire life has been that way. I can cook, I can clean, I can fix a tire, I can build a house, I can rewire.
Right.
I can do all of those things, and yet I can still be soft to my daughter. I can still be yielding. I can still actually go in to my own feminine when there's an issue, because she doesn't have a mother anymore. So that's another part of it, is not always having that kind of emotional compass where, okay, I need to turn off this part and I need to go into my more tender side, that tender aggression side where you still have it, but you need to identify and empathize with somebody. It's all part of this. It's the whole gamut.
Well, and the really crazy thing about that too is all these skills that you've developed, you had to learn it from other people. You didn't just simply have YouTube around. You didn't just you weren't able to just go look it up on Google, right? It's the same thing for me when I was a kid. Like there was no YouTube. There was Google, sure, but it was kind of, primitive. It wasn't really that great at the time. Yeah. And so ultimately, I learned all these things too because I didn't have a dad around. And it forced me to be in my masculine too. It was like, okay, well, I'm the man. Okay, cool. Like there's no man around. I'm the man. It's up to me to fix all these things. It's up to me to fix the things around the house. It's up to me to change the tires, all that stuff too. I got lucky and I worked in a tire shop for a little while. So I learned how to change the tires. I learned how to change the oil. I learned how to do basic things with an engine. But ultimately, too, I learned how to fix things around the house, too. Like I always had these tools around. I learned how to fix a wall, how to drywall, how to paint, all that stuff, too, just because my grandpa actually did that stuff. He was a contractor. And so I went to work with him a lot. I learned how to tile. I learned how to drywall. I learned how to do all that stuff because I thought that it might be useful to me one day. It wasn't that I wanted to do that for a living. It wasn't like I was trying to be there working labor and all that stuff. But I did it for a long time to understand exactly how to do these things. Yeah. And I think it's funny, too, because they make fun of a lot of millennials. Like they don't know how to drive stick shift. They don't know how to fix houses. They don't know how to change their tire. They don't know how to change their oil. I know how to do all of those things just because I really took the initiative and tried to learn those things because I thought it might be important. And now that most millennials get made fun of for that stuff, I'm like, hey, well, I know how to do all that stuff. So,
right. Yeah.
But it has changed my life for the better.
No, it's definitely good to learn all that. My daughter's the same way. My son and daughter, they know how to do breaks. Yeah. They know how during COVID, when we didn't really work that much for a while, gutted my bathroom. My daughter, I showed her how to tile. She started tiling, plumbing, electrical. And so it's about teaching your kids, not so that they can do it proficiently, so they don't get taken from a contractor knowing, like, I know what's involved. Oh, this is $40,000. No, the material's like $1,000. I can do this myself.
Right.
So part of that is just another part kind of mental toughness is just if something's broke, I do tell guys this, don't hire a handyman. It's already broke, so you can't break it anymore. Go to YouTube, go to Google, find a manual, try to fix it. It's already broke, so it's not like you're going to break it anymore.
Exactly.
But if you can fix it, maybe not well, but it's fixed, that gives your brain like, oh shit, I did this. I took out a plug and put a plug in. I learned how to fix a light switch, or my plumbing was leaking. I fixed it. That all builds this mental toughness. It all builds this fortitude. Like, that wasn't that bad. What else can I do?
It's a growth mindset. Yeah.
Just falling into, I'm just going to hire this other guy to do it. I always tell us, so you want another man to come into your house to fix your shit. That's what you want.
That's emasculating.
That is the worst That is the worst thing. I never want another man to come in my house and fix something. Never.
Right.
Unless I do
Same.
not know how to fix it and I tried, different story. But damn it, I'm going to try. Before that motherfucker comes in, I'm going to try.
That's the funny thing too, is if something breaks on my car, even like the first person I'm calling is my brother across the street. Like, come over, man, grab the parts while you're on the way. Like, let's fix this. Let's do this. That's what we're gonna do. There's no way we're gonna try and take it to somebody else or call somebody else. It's just not what we do. It's just not who we are. And so ultimately, like, I feel like I can fix it. I feel like I can figure it out. I mean, I built my whole computer and stuff from scratch too, every little part of it. Mm-hmm. And so that's the biggest thing is like, dude, you can learn these things. You can act like they're valuable skills. They're skills that other people aren't even trying to have. And like I said, even when you got a woman in the house too, if you got a woman in the house and you have to call somebody else to come fix your drywall, you got to call somebody else to come change your oil, man. Like, come on, that's emasculating. That's not manly, and that's not sexy to her. It's just not. And so if you're the guy that can come in, you can fix everything in the house, you can fix everything on the car, and you're the guy that she calls every time that stuff goes wrong, dude, that's sexy. You show up and you fix that car. You show up and you change your oil. Like, she's that's sexy, man. It just is what it is.
I agree. So, but yeah, that's been a nothing pisses me off more than that. It's just, guys like, oh, I called someone to fix this. Like,
right.
All right, dude. Okay. I'm not going to help you. So, and I'm the first one that would do it. I'm like, I'll show you how to do it, but you're going to do it, but I'll be right there. No. I don't want to get electrocuted. How many times I've been electrocuted? How many times I've been zapped?
Oh man. Jesus. I still remember this. I still feel it in my arm, man. The shocks. Yeah. Oh man. Plenty of times.
But all of these things that we talked about, eventually the sum of all of those gets you to a place, and it does take time. When they say men are made, it is true. You don't just have value because you're born. We don't have value as men.
Yeah, you got to build your value.
Women's value is in their beauty initially. We don't have that. We have to build ourselves, and it does take some time. Could be into your 30s, it could be into your 40s. As long as you're continually to build upon yourself, always having self-improvement, then you're getting there. As soon as you stop growing, which a lot of men actually stop growing in high school, because there is some still competition in high school. Once high school is done, that kind of competition part is done as well. A lot of men stop growing in high school. Right. They don't challenge themselves. They don't push themselves. They make,
I've seen it. Yeah.
I lots of my high school friends, they stopped in high school. They stopped pushing themselves for excellence. Their dreams died pretty much that day.
That's what happened when I got into entrepreneurship. Like a lot of the guys that I went to high school with, like they didn't even understand what I was talking about. They didn't even understand why I was even doing that. Like they had their jobs and they were cool with it. Mm-hmm. That was all their life was. And that was cool. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's cool for them. Cool.
No, I'm not making I'm not making a value judgment based on them. I'm just making an observation on as soon as you lose that competitive drive that every man should always have, as soon as you start weighing on that, you're done. You're done. You always have to be competitive. It's a competitive world. You're competing against women, or for women. You're competing for job opportunities. You're competing for business. As soon as you stop having that competition, that mindset of dominating, wrap it up. You're done. You're done.
That's the thing is winners just win. Winners don't accept losing. Winners don't accept the fact that like they're going to get second place. Like they're going to find a way to get that first place. There's no other position. It's just the thing too. Like I said, Andy Frisella said, like, I just hate losing. I'm not going to lose. I don't care about winning. I'm just not going to lose. Right. And that's a big mentality that I think everybody needs to build up. Because that's the thing too, is the burden of performance is always on men. It's always going to be on men. It's not going to change. No. It's okay. Just accept it. It's okay. That's part of stoicism, is just accepting the things that you cannot change and taking the challenge for what it is and seeing it through.
Absolutely.
That takes mental toughness.
1000% agree. Definitely. And the other part of that too is, because I like that statement, but even if you did lose in maybe a marriage or lost a relationship, just don't quit on yourself. The whole point is just don't quit.
Right.
Because once you quit and you subscribe to the idea that I'm just a loser and this is my life, you cannot have mental toughness. You've already defeated yourself up here because you've created those thoughts. And your brain's really good at reinforcing your thoughts. This is most of what, when I do my coaching,
It's trying to support you. Yeah.
This is most of everything I do with coaching is just I'm breaking thoughts. I'm breaking patterns so that I can interrupt that pattern enough to create a new idea, a new thought. And once that happens, then new ideas come through. But if you always have the thought of this is just as good as my life is going to be, the thought is I'm always going to be middle management. I'm never going to do this. You've already lost. You don't have it up here. And that's what we want to change. You can do this. You can do that.
The thing too is like if you fight for your disabilities, like if you fight for the things that are wrong in your life, you get to keep it. That's the thing. You want to fight for your bad habits, you get to keep them. You want to fight for your bad beliefs, you get to keep them.
Right.
If you want to fight to stay in the position that you're in and you have every excuse not to do things, you get to keep that position. Because there's a million ways to win. There's a million ways to find that winning strategy. There's only one way to lose. One single way. And that's just to quit.
Give up. Give up. Yep. And that's what you see a lot of these days. They just give up in their mind and then the rest is easy. The rest is easy. Once you're like, I quit. Again, it's not really a value judgment I'm placing on anybody. It's just a choice you made. And that's fine. But my choice is always, oh, no. There's no quit. It's going to work. It might not work the way I wanted it to, but it's going to work. And I'm not going to quit until it does.
Right. I like that. That's a good mentality to have. It really is. That's what'll carry you through everything too. Like even if you don't know what you want in life, even if you don't really know what your path and purpose is yet, the thing that will carry you forward is just the drive to win. Like just wanting to win, not wanting to lose even is a good drive to have. And so ultimately, like just don't settle for where you're at. You don't have to settle for where you're at if you're not happy. And so ultimately, like a lot of people, that's the thing is like they settle for these positions, they settle for these lifestyles, they settle for these middle management positions, whatever it is. They settle for their wives, they settle for their like whatever their life is. They just settle down into it and they just stop fighting for anything else because they're just like, well, I guess this is what it is and it's not going to be anything else. But that's not true. That's the story you're telling yourself. If you feel like there's more in the tank, if you feel like there's more that you could put into every single day, if you feel like there's more energy there every single day, you feel like there's more mental capacity there, you have an obligation to go out and get more. Otherwise, you're just settling for what you have.
Yeah, settling is comfort. That a lot of people just fall into their comfort zone, and yeah, that's great. I'm only middle management. I'll never get to CEO, but I make 60, 70 grand a year. I have 3 weeks paid vacation plus sick time, all my holidays off. I'm doing pretty good. Well, if that's the case, why are you explaining this to me? Why are you explaining it in your own head? You're lying to yourself. There is more, but you're so conditioned to be okay with what you have. And that's fine. But if you want more, if you truly have that fire still inside, man, you got to figure a way to get it out and it starts, again, everything starts in your mind because your mind's just very good at telling you what you want to hear. I'm a loser. Yep. It'll tell you all the reasons why I'm a loser. I'm a winner. Tell you all the reasons why you're a winner. It's the old computer saying, GIGO, garbage in, garbage out. What you feed your mind, it's very good at spitting it right back out to you. So you have to train this to be positive, to have a strong mental, positive mindset on everything. Even if shit goes wrong in your life, find the positive in it. Find what you can fix about that negative situation to turn it into a positive.
Right.
You mentioned, people suck at making decisions or hate making a decision. There's never a right or wrong decision. It's a decision. And it's up to you to make it right or wrong.
It moves you forward.
What it is.
It keeps you moving. It's like fuel. Decisions are fuel. Like just trying to make sure that you actually are making the decision. You're following through with the decision.
Yeah.
You're moving. And once you're moving, you can correct course. It's okay. It doesn't matter what you're trying to choose, man.
Yeah.
Just decide and just keep going. And you'll figure out what decisions are the best, which ones you didn't like so much. And you learn over time and you start making better decisions over time. But you got to make the decisions. And so ultimately, like there's a whole nother level to things. There's always another level. We are goal-striving creatures. And as goal-striving creatures, we've always got to have that goal in mind. We've always got to have that next level. Even when we reach that goal, we reach that mountain peak, we're going to see the next mountain peak. We're like, okay, well, I guess that's the next goal. We're going to keep going. And so ultimately, you're always going to have some kind of goal. There's always going to be another level that you can achieve. And so strive for that level. That's what really fulfillment is in general. Like once people settle, they're dying. They're dying every single day. Once you settle into your life and you're not trying to live your life for what it is, you're not trying to reach that next level of performance, you're dying. You're just waiting to die. What are you even doing with your life? Eventually, you're just going to die. And so ultimately, if you want to keep going, if you want to still have that drive for life, and if you want to really keep that spark and that passion alive, and you want to keep moving towards that path and that purpose, and you want true fulfillment in life, you have an obligation to reach that next level, to always strive for that next level and never stop striving for it.
Right. Absolutely. 1000%. That's dead on.
That's all we got for you guys today. I mean, obviously we've hit the hour here, so we don't want to take up too much of your guys' time.
Right.
But we really appreciate you guys being here. And if you guys feel like you need to talk about any of this stuff, or you feel like you need any help, then obviously the link is down below for our website. Go and book that free breakthrough session with Jared here, and he'll actually be happy to talk to you guys about anything you're dealing with and see if we're actually a good fit to help you and make sure that you guys can actually get into the next phases of what this program has to offer.
Right. Yeah, guys, I appreciate, a little bit over an hour. So thank you for your tuning in every Friday, watching this. And if you guys are watching this after the stream is over, have a great weekend and, let's get after it. Let's get going.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate you. If you guys have any content ideas or there's anything you guys want us to cover, let us know in the comments. Thanks, guys. Have a great weekend.
We'll see ya.